All right, hello everyone. First of all, let me know if my audio is all good, if anything's too loud or too quiet. I would appreciate being alerted of that. It's amazing how your stream setup can just decay over time even though you haven't used it. That's the problem with technology, right? Like you don't use something for a while and then it just doesn't work the next time you use it. So I had to change a bunch of things, but I think the stream should be okay. So welcome everyone. It's good to be back streaming. For those who are watching right now and for those who are watching the VOD later, you may or may not be aware that I recently lost my job, so I don't have a stable source of income. So I'm going to start with a pitch. If you want to support my work, if you want to support me and my channel and my game development efforts, you could purchase one of my Udemy courses. The link is in the description below. And I have another Udemy course coming up. It should be released at the end of August or the beginning of September, depending on how it goes. It'll be a C# course where we make a puzzle game. So if you'd rather wait for that, you can subscribe and turn on those notifications so you can be alerted when that's available. And otherwise, if you can't support financially or you're not interested in the courses, watching my videos is a great way to support me as well. So I appreciate that. And of course, subscribe if you're not subscribed. And okay, with all of that out of the way, we'll see how everyone's doing. Hello, Solo Leveling. Hello, Raphael. Hello, Mohammed. Thank you so much for buying the course. I really appreciate that. Audio is good. Thank you for letting me know. Are you working on the Gmtk jam as well, Nikita? So yeah, so that's the subject of the stream. We're going to spend a couple hours on the stream today building out my Gmtk jam idea. So the Gmtk jam this year, the theme is built to scale. And so what I want to do with this is I've got some art here that you can see on the screen. And basically you're going to play as this player, this little blue guy here. And sorry, I'm just noticing maybe some outlines need to be fixed here. Anyway, that's probably not important, but I just got to make sure these outlines are good. Anyway, so the idea is that you play as this player and you can change between the size of your player. So here's the small version of the player, this really tiny guy right here. And then we've got the large version of the player, or the medium version rather. And then we've got the large version of the player here, which I'm also realizing is missing some details here. Don't mind me just going to add those in really quick. Okay, so the idea is that the small version of the player is only going to be able to kill the small version of the enemies. So this is the small enemy. And then the medium version of the player is only going to be able to kill the medium enemies. And the large version will only be able to kill the large enemies. So pretty straightforward. And yeah, the small player has this little mini machine gun here, this submachine gun, which will shoot very fast. This medium player has this rifle, which will shoot, you know, a little bit slower. And then the large version of the player will have a melee hammer for smashing things. So I'm actually going to make this line thicker too. I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place already, but I think that probably looks better. So yeah, and then let's go back to the game here. So I'll go ahead and run the game, what I've got so far. So basically you've got this little arena here, which is denoted by this white box, and enemies are just going to spawn and you're going to have to kill them by switching between your versions of the player with 1, 2, and 3. So you can go from any size to any other size. And the idea is that you just have to manage what size player you are in order to handle the enemies that are an immediate threat to you. So that's the gist of the idea so far. I obviously have a lot of work to do. So yeah, but I think it's going to be really fun. I think basically what I'm going to do is just spend a lot of time polishing it up. These guys are kind of like jelly, or at least that's the way I'm going to make them feel. So they're going to have like a lot of bounciness to it. There's going to be particles flying everywhere, screen shake, all of that good stuff. So I just want to make it feel really juicy, really nice to play. And then probably we'll wrap it in some kind of roguelike formula. So I'm basically just going to borrow the gameplay loop of Gunforged, but dumb it down quite a bit, where you kill the enemies that appear on the level, and then once you've cleared all of them, you'll get a choice of one of 3 passive abilities or changes to your abilities. And there will be 1 passive for each player size, and so you can figure out which player size you want to enhance by selecting those passives. The other thing I forgot to mention is what I want to do is for each of these player sizes, I want to give them each a special ability. So for instance, the small guy's special ability might be a dash, and then any passive abilities that you get will be modifications to that dash. The medium guy is going to probably throw like a stick of dynamite or something, create an explosion, which is also going to have passive abilities associated with it. And then the large guy is probably going to have some sort of leap slam, so he's going to be able to jump over enemies and then slam down. And of course, there will be passive abilities to modify that as well. So that's the gist of the idea. I'm sure it's going to change quite a bit, but I think it fits the theme. You're going to change your player scale essentially, and based on your scale is going to change which enemies you're able to actually defeat. I haven't decided yet if enemies are going to be immune from player attacks that are the mismatch size. So if you attack a small enemy with a large player, I haven't decided if that means that they're going to be immune or if they're just going to take a severely reduced amount of damage. Gonna have to figure that out. There's gonna be some gameplay questions that pop up, but I think generally speaking, I think I can make it work. So, excuse me. All right, Abo, big fan of you and your games, especially your art. Thank you so much, appreciate that. Arian, hey friend, hello. Modern Slime, yes. All right, Abo, what's your question? Let's see. Can I make online multiplayer game in Godot that has voice chat and chat also, and the most important thing is making a server list? I'm not an expert on multiplayer games in Godot. My understanding is that none of that is a problem with Godot specifically, but for voice chats and server lists, you might need to actually... I'm just kind of like talking from an educated guess here, but you might actually have to have some kind of actual server and actual database with maybe like a REST API or something, or some other kind of way of accessing that information. I don't think you'd be able to do that with like a peer-to-peer connection. So Godot, my understanding is that Godot multiplayer works really good for peer-to-peer, like right out of the box. But if you want to do like an authoritative server with a server list, you kind of have to pull in different elements. And that might be the same case for voice chat as well. You might have to use a third-party API for voice chat, or architect your own solution for sending voice data over the net through a server and then to all the clients. So short answer is yes, it should be possible. There's nothing fundamentally about Godot that will prevent you from doing that. The long answer is Godot is probably not going to do all of that stuff for you out of the box. There's probably going to be other stuff you need to do outside of Godot and interface with outside of Godot. But again, that's just an educated guess. I'm not familiar with making multiplayer games, so. Thank you, Nikita. Yeah, I think it's simple. This jam is 96 hours, whereas previously it's been 48 hours, I think. And because I'm unemployed now, I have plenty of time to work on it. So my plan is I'm going to spend today and tomorrow working on the gameplay mechanics, getting the passive abilities working and whatnot. And then Monday can be the day that I spend like really polishing it up, doing gameplay testing, adding any extra content I want to do, and all that kind of stuff. Are you using some design pattern to change between characters? So no, I'm not. Well, I can go over it a little bit. So all the players are part of this. Oops, you know what I should do? I should do this. Editor settings. Let me make this bigger for you guys. 1 second. I forgot to set this up before I started the stream. So I'll just increase the editor scale a little bit so you guys can see this easier. Okay. So, yeah. So here's my player. And the player has separate nodes for each of the different visuals. So we've got visuals small, visuals medium, and visuals large. So those are the 3 different player variants. And they all use the same script. But what I've done in the script is I've set up a callable map for where the behavior branches. So for instance, there's this dictionary here, attack input callable map, that maps the player sizes, or the entity sizes rather, to individual methods that should be called for each of those sizes. So what happens is in the process method, I call handle attack input. And then if I go here, what it does is it looks up which function should be called based on the size and calls it immediately. And then I have handle attack input small, handle attack input medium, and handle attack input large. So it's not a very sophisticated pattern, but this is kind of the general approach I'm going to take, where the player is working off of the same script, all the different sizes of player are working off the same script. However, I can create clear delineations between like which behavior should take place. I have no clue if this is going to present problems in the future. I'm sure it will, but I will reevaluate when those problems come up. The problem with splitting the player up into like 3 different player scenes is that I was going to have a lot of repeat code. So it's kind of like one of those weird situations where you're going to have a lot of shared functionality, but then you're going to have a lot of different functionality. And it's like, how do you balance that properly? So I'm just going to let it mature with this kind of pattern that I've got going on. And then as problems are revealed, we will address them. I liked your Godot utility state machine. I'm using GDScript for one of my projects. Can you port your C# state machine to GDScript? It means a lot for my game. Yeah, you can. I mean, I would suggest that you look at the implementation for that state machine, and you should be able to basically port it yourself pretty much with callables. So callables are basically the like C# delegates. So they're basically just references to functions. So you can just use callables like I'm using here, and you should be able to pretty easily create your own delegate state machine in GDScript from that. But that is something that I've been wanting to do for my own purposes, like create a delegate state machine in GDScript. So if I ever do create that, I will make sure to open source it so that people can copy it. Thank you for the suggestion, Nikita. Yeah, battery acid apparently is a good resource. In my opinion, do I see Godot as better than Unity? I don't have enough Unity experience, so take this with a grain of salt. I do believe that Godot is the best 2D engine available anywhere, period. I think it's better than GameMaker. I think it's better than at least my experience with 2D and Udemy. I think, yeah, I would always pick Godot for a 2D game, unless there was something that I really needed from Unity. But, you know, if you're making just a classic 2D game, like, I don't know why you wouldn't choose Godot, honestly. Your boinky animation is one of your forte. Yeah, I'm very much leaning on my existing skill set. But I am trying to take a different art style here. So I borrowed this from Kenny. So Kenny Assets, he has these characters, a character or a creature creator or something that uses these really thick outlines, and I liked that visual, so I'm trying to do that here with really thick outlines and see how that works. It's working out so far, so we'll see. Take more breaks but double the time. You can avoid sleep now for 4 whole days. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm not going to take much more break time than I typically do, for sure. 4 days means more days of work. But yeah, stay hydrated. Is this going to show up? I got water here, so yeah, we're good. Will you create more Godot GDScript course tutorials, maybe for intermediate or mobile focused? Maybe. What I want to do is go back and re-record the platformer course for Godot 4.3 or whatever happens to be the Godot version, and also do the same for the Survivors course. Problem is, creating courses like that, especially for the platformer course, I basically just have to re-record everything. Like, there's not really a good way with video content of just like, oh, I can just change this lesson, because the context changes and the editor UI is all different, and so I think that you really just need to like re-record the whole thing, which takes a lot of time. So Anyway, let's get into some of the work that I need to do here, which is that I think the next step I'm going to do, so I've got some basic enemies already here. The next step that I'm going to do is just create the different enemy sizes. Now, in contrast to the player, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually probably create a different scene for each enemy. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So let's create a new scene. I'm going to make it a root of character body 2D. We'll call this medium enemy. Oh, you know what? I just realized some things. This can go. Remove those. I'm getting annoyed by this naming. Hold on a second. I'm gonna rename this stuff. Enemy small. Okay. Now let's create a new scene. Character body 2D. Enemy medium. Oh, I gotta do the art for this guy too. Which shouldn't be too difficult. Let's see. Scenes, game object, enemy medium. I'm gonna cheat a little bit here. Just paste all those over. Reset these things. Gotta be careful when copy pasting. These shapes need to be made unique, because otherwise they're going to be shared by reference, which we don't want. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw the medium character. So basically it's just going to be the same dimensions as the player here. This is the reason I gave the player this little ball cap, is because otherwise the player would look exactly the same as the enemies, but for the color. And I don't know, maybe some players wouldn't be able to see the difference between blue and red. I'm not sure how all that works, but adding the cap as a visual just is a nice differentiator, I think. So yeah. One second, I've edited some of these outlines here, so I want to update those as well. So save the player medium. I think I edited the player large as well, so let's go ahead and copy that guy over. Okay. Now let's do this guy here. So we'll just shrink this down. We'll make him a little bit shorter because he's not wearing a ball cap, right? So do that, and then keep the eyes. Are the eyes at the same level on these ones here? Yeah, okay. So we'll keep the eyes at the same level, but get rid of that. We'll just do a delete his brain here and make him red. He looks so cute, kind of, actually. Okay, there's the medium enemy. I haven't yet decided what the enemy attacks are going to look like. I should probably figure that out, but we'll see. And then for this guy, I don't know, are these outlines symmetrical? I have no clue if they are. But we'll make him shorter. Well, let's do this. I might have to redo this outline. I don't think it's symmetrical. Is there an easy way to tell? Let's see. Oops. Okay, I think they're symmetrical now. Looks kind of weird though for some reason. Why does it look weird? Oh well, we'll just leave it like that for now. Oops. Okay. Fill this in. Oh, I chunked off some of his eye. All right, there we go. And then I want these orange pieces here. Give him a thicker highlight line here since he's bigger. Maybe it should just be a thin line up there. Well, that looks kind of weird too, but we'll figure it out. I can tweak all this later. For now, we're just gonna get it in place. Cool. All right, so we've got our different enemy sizes now. Excellent. All right. I'm just reading your comments here. It is also GOAT in 3D. Yeah, so making a 3D horror game in Godot, and I should say it has changed many things in the 3D. Oh, since the 3D became better, yeah. Good luck on the jam. Thank you, thank you. How can you make games without tutorials? The answer is lots of experience. No, but like, so you can get into like a tutorial trap where all you're doing is tutorials, and tutorials are very useful. I mean, I make them, right? So obviously I think that they're useful. But at some point, you have to go out on a limb and try to make something by yourself. And I think that, you know, to plug my Udemy course again, the purpose of my Udemy course is to expose you to as much, I guess, surface area as possible in all the ways that you can use Godot. And then it can serve as like an evergreen reference for you when you go to make your own games. So there will be elements from the Udemy course that I've made that you can copy directly into your own game, like design patterns and stuff. But then there are just general concepts that you can be aware of that you can utilize for your own game development, like the idea of custom resources. So the way that we apply custom resources in the Survivors course may not be the same way in which you're applying custom resources in your game, but having an understanding of when to use custom resources and how to use them should help you in the creation of your own game. But it really just comes down to experience. Like, you kind of have to go out into a limb and try to make something on your own without an explicit tutorial. You should use references, you should read the documentation, you should look at the Udemy course and pull any useful bits out of there. But you kind of have to step away from following a set of exact steps as presented in a tutorial and go into the unknown, so to speak, and figure something like how to do something yourself using the background knowledge you have. And the more you do that, the more familiar you're gonna get with the process of making a game, what works and what doesn't, and then you'll eventually settle into a state where you can pretty much make any 2D game you want with very minimal effort. Thank you, Black Cat, I appreciate that. Oh, it's unfortunate, Abo. Yeah, well, I hope you have a decent time with your family on the trip. That sounds like fun. Doesn't sound like the worst reason to miss a game jam. It sounds like a lot of fun, actually. How do you stay motivated, especially on long-term project? I've said this before, but I don't like the word motivation because that implies that there's something that's like, there's something external that's going to keep you like, you know, jazzed up about building your game. I don't think motivation is the right way to frame it. I think you have to have discipline. I think that the only way that you're going to finish a long-term project is by basically forcing yourself to work on it at least a little bit, even when you don't want to. And that's the only way you're going to finish a game, because every single game, at least that I've made, has come with periods of slog where it's really not fun to work on at all. And the only way out of that situation is through, right? The only way out is through. So you have to have the discipline to sit down and work on your game, even when it's not very fun to do, and get through that period of slog And then once you've done that, then the motivation is going to come and go. Like you're going to hit parts of your project that are really fun to work on that you want to stay up late and work on. And then there's like going to be parts of your game where you're just like, you're dreading working on it. You don't want to do it, but those are the moments where you have to do it. And then the times where you're having fun on your game, that's just easy. That's just going to come and motivate you naturally. So motivation, that's not the way I would frame it. You have to have discipline, and that's a completely different thing. Tips for drawing pixel art. Use a color palette, and constraint breeds creativity. So one of the ways I learned pixel art is I just start with a 1-bit palette, black and white. And when you have a black and white palette, you really don't have that many choices. And so your only way of making pixel art look good is to make it look good. I know that sounds kind of like trite, but you really get a lot of good practice on form and how you can use, like, even 1 pixel can make the difference in how your art looks. And you really learn that really well by using a 2-color palette. And then once you've gotten really good at that, what you can do is you can start branching into more and more colors. And then what I would do personally is, if you're learning pixel art, don't worry about choosing your own colors until you're comfortable with actually drawing the art. And then once you're comfortable with that, learn color theory. And then once you've learned a little bit of color theory, then you can go into picking your own colors. I think a lot of people, they try to learn pixel art, but there's just too many options available. So constrain yourself, give yourself a really tight box to work in, get comfortable in that tight environment, and then gradually expand. You don't want to start with the whole universe of possibilities ahead of you. You want to start small with a set of constraints, master that, and then not to say that I'm a pixel art master. I don't really mean master in the terms of like, you know, you're the best pixel artist in the world. I just mean like get a good grasp of it. This is A Sprite JCND. Hello, Neozoid. I'm just trying to get through. Yeah, people who study computer science, yeah, it depends. I mean, with computer science still, you still need to do your own research and whatnot. There's like people can't pipe information from their brains into yours. You have to actually do the study. And the people that go into computer science are probably more of the population of people that are willing to go in a self-motivated way or a self-disciplined way and learn something. Thank you, Nior. All right, so we've got our enemies here, and let's go ahead and save these guys. I wonder if there's a way to save a selection directly to a, what is the word? Directly to a file, but oh well. Enemy, medium. My names are all wrong here. I'm already messing this all up. I've got underscores and hyphens and no naming style or naming convention at all. Oh well. Enemy large. Okay, so let's go back to Godot. We've got this medium enemy here. Let's drop him on over here. Offset, that's fine. I think, yeah, that should be good. Okay, so we've got the medium guy. Let's just go ahead and might as well just duplicate this. So enemy medium, let's go ahead and duplicate enemy large. Okay, we need to make these resources unique. Drag on over the enemy large here, and let's align him. There we go. All right, so yeah, that should be fine. Oops, and then what do we want to do? I think, so this is going to be a problem too. The enemy script is probably going to be very similar between all the enemies. So I'm going to commit one of the cardinal sins here. I'm just going to copy and paste this for now. I'm going to find a way to consolidate them later if I can, but for now, I'm just going to copy and paste it into all the different scripts here. It's a game jam, so you can kind of like use that as an excuse to do really bad practices. But I think that should more or less make it work. So let's go ahead and go back to main. Let's instantiate a medium enemy. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this. Okay, they obviously need different size or different run speeds, but you can see, oh, I gotta change the hitboxes too, but oh, they're kind of like bunching up on each other. I thought I fixed that. Let's before I go any further, let's fix those things. So this collision shape needs to be larger. That'll work. This hitbox collision shape. Goodness. Okay, that'll work. And then enemy large. Just do 11. Whoops, not 1. 11. 11. Thank you. That'll be fine. And then this collision shape needs to be much larger. He's not completely centered here. Maybe I'll change this sprite offset a little bit. That'll work. And then change this height here. $32 is probably good. All right, now let's see. So these enemies shouldn't really bunch up anymore. I mean, they kind of do. I'm gonna have to figure out, probably use some flocking behaviors, I guess, to change this, but... Oh, you know what? The other thing I need to do is I need to change this entity size from small to large, and then for enemy medium, I need to do the same thing. Oh, and I need to hook up the health component to the hurtbox component. Okay. So now I should be able to kill the small guys with the small player, and then I should be able to kill the medium guys with the medium player. And I don't yet have attacking in place for large. So I guess that would be the next logical step here, to add attacking for the large player. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to commit this first, though. What am I going to call this? Add enemy types, I guess. All right, let's take a look at what y'all are saying. What's the hook of the gamers is already answered. Excuse me. Basically, the hook of the game is the theme is built to scale, and so you're going to change your player scale from small, medium, and large to handle the enemies. So when you're the small player, you can only kill the small enemies, and when you're the medium player, you can only kill the medium enemies, and when you're the large player, you can only kill the large enemies. So that's kind of the hook of the game, and you will clear this arena of enemies, and once you do that, you'll get like a roguelike progression system where you can choose one of 3 passive abilities to increase or to change, or to, what's the word I'm looking for? To take, which will alter your abilities. And then each of the player sizes is going to have a unique ability that can be affected by that. And then of course there will be a boss at the end, you know, all that good stuff. So that's basically the hook. The hills have eyes, yeah. All right, Nikita, good luck to you. And yeah, hope to see you in a future stream if I'm streaming again. Well, I will be streaming again throughout this GMTK process. So if you have another break, tune in. Make them get squished when hammered. Yeah, something like that is definitely going to happen. But we need to figure out how to get the large player attack working. So I'm not focusing on animations or anything yet. So I think what I want to do is I want to create a hitbox component, which I do not have yet. So let's create a new scene. We're going to call it a hitbox component. We're going to change this type to an area 2D. Okay, let's go ahead and add a script to it. Create, we're going to add a class name, hitbox component. And I have this custom object called hit parameters. So I'm going to do hit parameters. And this hit parameters is basically just, it contains a damage value and it contains a player size value. And these are the things that are used to damage the entities. I'm imagining that this hit parameters is going to contain more data as player passives get built out and everything. So this is basically just the container that contains all the data about the hitbox that's being generated. So I've got this hitbox component, and we're going to change the collision. Now, I always get confused now with the way that Godot has changed the collision layers and masks. So I'm going to go by enemy large, hurtbox component. It exists on the enemy hurtbox layer, and it's looking for the player hitbox layer. Okay, so hitbox component. Let's set this to be on the player hitbox layer by default. That'll be fine. We'll be modifying this to also work for the enemies hitting the player as well. I think that's basically good. And the question is, how am I gonna define the area that belongs under this? Do I want to do that through code, or do I want to just create individual scenes for that? That's a good question. Well, let's write some code first before I decide on that. So the hurtbox component, if I open that up, this has an on area entered signal connection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if other area is hitbox component, then we're going to do var hitbox component is equal to other area as hitbox component. And then what we can do is we can do hit.emit, and we're going to emit the hitbox component dot hit parameters. So do you see how that works? So we've got the hit parameters. So I've got a couple of things. The bullets are doing raycasts, and so there is no area associated with the bullets. But what's going to happen is there's hit parameters coming in from when register raycast is called from the bullet. And if the hit parameters player size is equal to the entity size, it does that hit emit. So I'm actually going to need to copy this as well. So var hit parameters is equal to hitbox component dot hit parameters. And then we're going to copy this. So it's basically just emitting the hit signal with the parameters that it was hit with, and then that can be handled elsewhere in the code. So I think that's going to be fine. And then let's figure out how to get this player to work. I think what I'll do is Let's just do this to start with. This is probably not gonna... Yeah, I don't know. What I could do is I could create in here. You know what? No. There's going to be an easier way to do this. I'm just going to create a new inherited scene for that. So let's create a new inherited scene. We're going to inherit from the hitbox. Oh, did I name this? I don't know why my naming is all off here. Okay. Let's create a new inherited scene from the hitbox component. We're going to call this large player swing or something like that. And we'll save that into game object player. Save it in there. Let's add a child node, collision shape 2D. And this collision shape 2D is going to have a rectangle shape. And let's just change. I actually don't know what this looks like in relation to the player, so let's open up the player scene, turn on visuals large, and let's just instantiate that large player swing so I can see what it looks like. Okay, so the large player swing is going to, let's do something like 40 maybe, or that might be too much, 30. Oh, maybe not, 40 and 30. And then we're going to slide this over so that it's reaching outward from the player instead of centered on the player. So we'll have something like this, which will essentially go from here. Or maybe it should be better represented as that, or it could start here. No, probably here is fine. So I might have to change this, what I'm calling the gun route, which in this case is not a gun, but this is sort of the route from which the weapon is being swung. So I'm going to put that up there. Let's do this. So I'm going to move this into a more good position for the hitbox, and then what I'll do is I'll move this sprite down. That might have implications for how the animation goes in the future, but nothing we can't figure out. So that's probably going to be okay for now. Might have to change that area, but we'll call that good. So one of the things about, like, if you want to do instantaneous damage with a hitbox, it's kind of weird. You need to wait for 2 physics frames and then you can free it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here. I'm going to create a function called burst. What's going to happen here is, let's grab the, hold on a second. What am I doing here? All right, sorry about that. So we're gonna have a burst here, and what we'll do is we'll grab the collision shape and we'll set that equal to the collision shape 2D. Actually, do we need to do... Yeah, that's fine. Oh, I have to do var collision shape, and then collision shape dot disabled equals true. Then we need to await get tree dot physics frame, await get tree dot, actually, no, I don't need to disable it first. I just need to await 2 physics frames, and then I can do queue free. Now, one thing I need to do is for the burst, I need to pass in a hit parameters. So parameters, hit parameters. So the parameters are always going to come from externally. So whatever's creating this hitbox is going to pass in the parameters, and then I can assign those here. So hit parameters is equal to parameters. And so now that exists on the object. Now that might be, will that be a problem? These parameters may be null. I don't know. I'm gonna have to test it, I suppose. So now in the player, we've got this handle attack input large. So let's go ahead and preload var large player swing scene equals preload large player swing.tscn. And so when we're going to handle that attack input large, we're going to do var swing box equals large player swing scene dot instantiate as hitbox component. We're going to say hitbox component dot swing box. You know what? I actually don't like this. We're not going to accept a parameters definition in here. What we're going to do instead is we're going to assign that. So swingbox.hit parameters is equal to hit parameters.create. Damage, we'll just do 1. Player size, current size. Okay. And now we can do we need a reference to gun root large. So onReady var gun root large is equal to % gun root large. Okay, so scrolling back down, where am I at? Oh no. Here we go. Handle attack input large. So we're gonna do get parent dot add child swing box, but before we add it, let's do swingbox.global position is equal to gun root large.global position. And then we want to do swingbox.rotation is equal to gun root large.rotation. Is that going to work? We're going to have to check and see if that works, but I think that'll be all right. So let's see how that works. So I'm going to turn on... Am I forgetting something? I'm probably forgetting something, but let's turn on visible collision shapes and then take a look. Oh, goodness. That's not right. Maybe I can draw that fancy S. Okay, that's not going to work, but... okay. The reason that that's not working is because I'm not detecting that the input has been pressed. And the other thing I need to do is in the hurtbox component, I need to just print in here. Print, yeah. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, so that is working. I'm not calling burst on it though, so there's a couple of problems here. One, we want to create a timer for the swing. So we want the player to be able to hold down the left mouse if they want. I mean, maybe not. Yeah. Yeah, let's create just a new timer here. We'll do shoot timer large, like so. And then let's get a reference to that timer. onReady var shoot timer large. Okay, and then we'll just do the same thing in here. And then let's do 0.4 for the wait time, 1 shot on. And then we need to call swingbox.burst after we add it as a child, I think. Swingbox.burst. Okay. Now let's see what happens. Okay, so that's working. The box is not being angled the right way and also probably want it to be bigger. So let's figure out why it's not being angled the right way. Probably because I'm not actually aiming that gun root. So let's do gun root large here. So in here, I have an array that's iterated over and all of those gun roots are are aimed. So now if I do this, oops. Yeah, so the rotation is not working correctly, but I think I can fix that relatively easy. Okay, we're getting there, we're getting there, we're getting there. Now, I might want to make this more efficient because right now it's just updating all of those, but I don't really care about that right now. What am I doing? What am I doing? I'm gonna make this more consistent though. Func shoot large. And then copy and paste that. So this swing box dot rotation, we'll change this to global rotation. There's some weird scaling that's in place based on orienting the player correctly that I think is affecting the rotation of the hitbox, but I think that if I use global rotation, that should be fine. Yep, global rotation works. I don't know if you can see that on the stream. It's a very quick burst, but so there's that. The other thing is that I need to turn this visuals off first. There we go. Oh yeah, I can already see this being fun. You swap to the big guy, do a leap slam in, swap to the small guy, dash away, shoot a bunch of bullets. Yeah, I can see it. I can see it. There's one thing I want to check. I'm a little bit scatterbrained right now, but okay. All right, let's check and see what you guys are all saying here. Yeah, I forget VAR all the time, for sure. What is the, let's see, hold on a sec. I'm missing a couple. Okay, what do I think of using AI to solve code problems or ideas? I think AI is really good for that because what I'm noticing increasingly, I don't know if Google is getting worse or what, but if you have very niche questions, it's very hard to find an answer on Google or any search engine. But in my experience, asking something like ChatGPT, a very niche question, is actually really useful. It can write very specific algorithms or functions for you as long as your prompt is good enough. So what, for instance, what I did is I wanted a quantize shader. I don't remember what it was for, but that's not the point. The point is I needed a quantize shader, and all the quantize shader examples I was looking at were for different environments that weren't Godot. They were in different shading languages. But when I asked ChatGPT to create a Godot shader that does quantization, it did it fine, and I just copy and pasted it over, and it worked great. So I think that it's really useful for that kind of thing. And also, my experience has been that AI is also really good at explaining what code does. So definitely use that as a tool for you. What I would caution against, though, is don't just like use AI to generate everything you need and then copy and paste it over, because then you won't know what's happening, right? Should only be asked like when you need a very specific question answered or a very specific snippet that you don't know how to write. That's when it's really useful. What is the best way to add post-processing effects in Godot, like grain and vignette and chromatic aberration? Well, a vignette, I've done that in Gunforge, can just be, it can just be a sprite that lays on top of the screen, at least in 2D. I don't know how it would work in 3D, but yeah, it's just a sprite with a gradient. You don't even need to make it a sprite. You can write a shader that draws a gradient. That works. Grain and vignette, or grain, I don't know. I don't know how to do like post-processing effects officially in Godot. I think there's something called like a screen space shader that takes the screen shader and then does things on the screen itself. There's ways to do it. I'm just not exactly sure what the correct way to do it is, but part of me really wanted to partake in the jam, but I feel like I really shouldn't right now. That's all right. Yeah, the theme is very difficult. Gmtk jam themes are typically very difficult for me, at least. They seem like Like Mark Brown is really good at coming up with a theme where there's like an obvious like game that you should make for it, but then you don't want to make the obvious game because everyone else is going to make the obvious game, right? So you have to do a lot of work to figure out like what is a clever game idea. And admittedly, I'm not very good at this. Like my GMTK jam submissions have not been clever interpretations of the theme at all. My submissions have been more like shoehorning it, like, oh, make the game that I want to make and then try to kind of like explain why it fits the theme. So that's actually my advice if you can't really figure out a good game idea, is just come up with a game idea that you want to make. Because like what you have to keep in mind for a lot of these game jams is like the theme is only one category of rating. So you could get a 1 star in the theme, and as long as you're maxing out your stars on all the other things like art and music and whatever, you can actually do very well. You could be in the top 500 or the top 250, even if your game does not match the theme at all. So if you want to participate and you have trouble finding ideas, my advice is just come up with a game that you want to make. If you can, find an excuse to like shoehorn the theme into it, but if you can't, just make the game anyway and submit it. And people will probably leave comments like, I don't see how this fits the theme, but then they'll be like, oh, but it was fun. So that's been my experience anyway. But yeah, totally understand. Sometimes you're just not feeling it, and so it's good to take a break as well. What's the difference between % and $sign for referencing nodes? % is access as unique name. So typically what you have to do if you're using a $sign is you have to copy the node path exactly. So for instance, this gun root small, if I copy this path, where's the copy path button? Copy node path. And if I go into my scripting, the node path looks like this. Visual small, gun root small, right? But if I mark the node as unique with right click and mark it, then I can just reference the name of that node as long as it's prefixed by a %. So it's basically just a way of skipping having to define a whole tree of nodes or the whole node path. Yeah, no C#. The problem is C# in Godot 4 still doesn't work on the web. And a lot of people will not play your game really if there's no web build, or at least it's a barrier. A lot of people just want to go to itch.io and just like click play. So that's the reason I'm not using C# is because I want to offer a web build. Also, it's just good for me to be brushed up on my GD script as well. I don't want to totally like lose that skill set. Yeah, it's understandable. I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm sorry, Costalina. I can't. I'm American. I don't know how to do the accents on the letters. I'm sorry, but no, it's totally understandable. Take a break if you need it. Do you ever plan on ever making and releasing a platformer tutorial like your other Udemy course? No, it would just be the Udemy course. I do plan on, well, I shouldn't say I have definitive plans, but I do want to update the platformer course to be more modern with Godot, because it's that course is for Godot 3. So well, here I am, Akun. All right, so yeah, thanks for joining the stream, everyone, by the way. It's great to have you all here. I'm excited to be streaming again. Been a long time. So, okay, so what am I doing? Where was I at? I do not remember. Oh yeah, so I've got, oh, okay, right. So I don't know if you can see that on the stream, but you should see a blue box blinking really fast. So that is the hitbox. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make this bigger though. So this collision shape, 60, make it longer at least. That might be too big. I mean, one thing that's just like common knowledge in video games, or video game development rather, is you want to bias everything in favor of the player. So there's a temptation, especially among new game developers, to like make it super technical, like the hitboxes need to match exactly. But the better gameplay experience actually is to make a very generous hitbox for player attacks and a very conservative hitbox for enemy attacks. So basically, it's harder for the enemies to hit the player than it is for the player to hit the enemies. And that just creates a better experience for players generally. So if the hitbox is a little bit bigger than the visuals, that's actually perfectly fine. It makes the game feel nicer to play. Okay, so I'm going to commit that. So add large player swing. So there's a couple of things. Well, there's a lot of things to do still. What should be the next thing? That's the thing. I'm very tempted to start adding some polish, but I probably shouldn't do that until I've got the bigger gameplay loop done. So I need enemies to spawn. I need enemies to spawn. I need to add the special abilities. I need enemies to spawn over time. I need to add the upgrade system. So the order of operations should probably be, let's get the enemies spawning over time. And then after that, we can add the player special abilities. And then after that, once that whole loop is done and I'm happy with the player special abilities, then what we can do is the passives and whatnot. So we're going to start working on getting the enemies to spawn within this box over a period of time. So we'll set up that framework, and then, yeah, we'll go from there. So before I get into that though, I want to once again hawk my offerings. I do not have a job right now, so my only source of income really is from my games and from my Udemy courses, which is highly variable income. So if you can, I'd appreciate your support. Go look at the links in the description. You can buy one of my games or you can buy one of my Udemy courses. If you don't want the Udemy courses, if you don't want the games, or you can't support me financially in that way right now, that's okay. Just subscribe, watch my videos. That also helps me a ton, and I would very much appreciate that support. So yeah, if you can do that, that's much appreciated. And I'm going to take a quick 2 or 3 minute break. And then when we come back, we'll get those enemies to spawn inside the level, as I was mentioning. So thank you again all for watching, and thank you all for your support. I'll be back in just a few minutes. All right, I'm back. So, let's take a look. Every project I finish comes with months of burnout. Yeah, that's my experience. That's kind of something that happens. I wish I had a silver bullet piece of advice for burnout. But yeah, that's fine. If all you could do is subscribe, I'm perfectly happy to have your subscription. That is much appreciated. Thank you. Okay, let's go ahead and do this enemy spawning. So, how are we going to do this? We've got our main here. And this is kind of going to be just the root of the game where all of the mechanics are tied together. So probably make some kind of I want to change this environment art too. I don't like this white box. It makes me feel nasty. It makes me feel icky. But we will worry about that later. So I'm going to let's create a new scene. Oops, not paste from clipboard. What is that? Create a new node. Let's do enemy. We'll just call it enemy manager. That's fine. We're going to go ahead and save that in manager. What do I also... Do I already have something? What is this player manager? What is this? We're going to delete that. Get out of here. Oh. I deleted it and then saved it and then it reappeared. Okay, so enemy manager. Goodness, my throat for some reason. Excuse me. Oh man. All right. So this enemy manager, let's create a script for it. Let's do @export var reference rect. And you're going to see how this works. It's going to be really cool. And then let's do an @export var enemy small scene as a packed scene. @export var enemy medium scene as a packed scene. And then @export var enemy large scene as a packed scene. Okay, so those are our export variables. Let's go ahead and get those all assigned, at least these enemy scenes. So let's do enemy large, enemy medium, enemy small. Okay, and then func. What do we want to do here? I did not think that far ahead. So we're gonna want some kind of timer, I think. Yeah, how do I want to do this? That's a good question. Let's go ahead and add this reference rect that I was talking about though. And we're just going to copy the custom minimum size from the color rectangle. Paste. And then we're going to copy the position as well. So copy value, paste it into the transform here. So this reference rect is basically just so that we can get the region in which the enemies need to spawn. And we'll do the same. I'm going to turn this ignore off for the mouse filter on the color rectangle. So we got the reference rect. I'm going to instantiate that enemy manager. paste it, or put it there rather. Select the enemy manager. Where did my... Oh, this is, okay. There we go. So now in my enemy manager, I can put the reference rect in there. And so now I have the region that I can spawn enemies in. Let's just start with something very simple, I suppose. Let's do a child node timer. Let's call it round timer. One shot, and then let's do, we'll just create another timer called like enemy spawn timer. Timer. One shot. Okay. So let's do this. Func ready. We'll just do, let's grab a reference to those timers. On ready var round timer is equal to round timer. At on ready var enemy spawn timer. Okay, so in here, let's just start the round timer. Let's just set it equal to, or the start time rather. No, wait time is equal to 15. And then let's do round timer.start. And then let's also do enemy spawn timer dot wait time. We'll just set it to 1. I mean, it's 1 by default, but we'll do enemy spawn timer dot start. Enemy spawn timer dot timeout dot connect on enemy spawn timeout. So on enemy spawn timeout, let's do this. We want to choose a random enemy. This is going to change. I'm going to have to scale it differently, but let's do this. Let's do enemy small scene, enemy medium scene, enemy large scene dot pick random. And I forgot, is randomize being called? Okay, yeah, we're good. So var scene equals enemy scene. Now let's get a random position. So what we're going to do is we're going to do reference rect dot global get global rect like so. So var spawn rect is equal to get global rect from there. And then what we'll do is we'll say random x is equal to rand I range. Is this globally randomized as well? You know what, I think what I need to do is just call, let's just do randomized just to be safe. So the seed will be the same every time you start the game in certain cases, unless you call randomize, in which case that will randomize the global seed that's used for like rand I range here. So we're going to do the random x is going to be between 0 and the spawn rect dot size dot x. And then let's do var random y is equal to rand I range 0 spawn rect dot size dot y. And then we can say var spawn position is equal to spawn rect dot position plus vector 2 random x and random y. Whoops, random 7. Random y. Now that we've got the spawn position, what we can do is we could say var enemy is equal to scene dot instantiate. Let's cast that as a packed scene. So instantiate as node 2D. We need the y sort root. So let's go ahead and export that as well. So at export var y sort root node 2D. Let's assign that in here like so. Let's delete all these enemies as well. Okay. And then what we can do is we can say y sort root dot add child enemy, but we'll set the global position of the enemy first. So enemy.global position is equal to spawn position. So that should be our on enemy spawn timeout. Now we need to do enemy spawn timer dot start again, but on round timer timeout. I'm gonna add timer to this. Round timer dot timeout dot connect on round timer timeout, like so. In here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna say enemy spawn timer dot stop in case that's in progress, and then let's just print done. Well, let's see if that works. There's one enemy. Bop, bop, bop. Oh, that's a medium guy. Okay. Okay. Okay, this is actually, now that I've got some visuals in here, and that worked. So it said done at the bottom here. I don't know if you can see that. That was actually fairly entertaining. I'm gonna turn down this wait time here. So basically all these numbers that are in here, these are gonna change based on what the level is. So the wait time for the round timer is gonna get longer each level, and the time between enemy spawns is also going to get shorter. So the rounds are gonna get longer and the number of enemies spawning is gonna get bigger. And so it's kind of like a war of attrition. Like you're gonna have to get really good at beating back the enemies as they spawn. Otherwise you're gonna be swamped, and that's gonna be a very dangerous situation. Okay. I'll have to change the enemy and player speeds as well. But I think that's working pretty good, actually. I'm starting to see the game take shape, that's for sure. Okay. Costelina, yeah, you want so badly to make something good? Me too. Me too. I know a lot of you guys are saying that you like my art and you like my games and stuff, but I have not really had much success at all beyond a few game jams in terms of like sales or having lots of downloads or anything. So I'm in it with you guys as well. But yeah, regular participation in game jams, obviously if you're not mentally there, then don't push yourself too hard, but regularly participating in game jams is really how I got like learning more about art and efficiency and cutting scope and making like game jams are really good, especially for game design, because you have to really like distill down a game into like its simplest parts and make it still fun. It's a very good exercise. Yeah, you may not be able to make commercial games. I mean, it's just, you know, it's one of those things where like I've been doing game development really since I was like 14. Now, it's kind of weird to say because when I was 14, I was just like playing around with Game Maker. So I wouldn't really say that those were games. Like I wasn't really driving toward making a full game, but you know, I'm 29 now, almost 30. So for about 15, almost 16 years, I've been making games on and off, and it's just now that I feel like I'm getting to the point where I have the potential to make something that's commercially viable. So that's not going to be the same for everyone. Art was really difficult for me to learn, pixel art and everything. Game design is something that's still very difficult for me, but I've been doing this for like 15 years. You know, not consistently, not working 40-hour weeks, but 15 years I've been doing this. And sometimes it just takes that long. Sometimes you have to be in something for the long haul. And it sounds daunting, especially when you're just at the beginning of your journey. But I think I'm probably an outlier. I think there's many other talented people that are not me who could master game development in like a year or two of dedicated effort. I am not one of those people. So Yeah, you know, it's daunting, but you know, you just have to kind of, like I said earlier on the stream, the only way out is through. Yeah, RPG Maker, same, yeah, same exact thing. Yeah, it's like, thank you, Christian. Play the demo is really fun. I appreciate that. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I'm really eager to finish Gunforged and see how it's received. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, if you're very early in your game development, don't be too hard on yourself. You have to understand that there's a lot of experience ahead of you. There's a lot of learning ahead of you, and trust me, I was in your shoes at one point where I was like trying to make a game, and I'm like, why does everyone else's games look so much better than mine? Like, I'm trying my hardest. I'm working hours and hours on this game, and like still, it's like not as good as these other people, and it's just, you know. That's going to be, I think, a natural part of the experience for everyone that gets started making games. You just have to keep working through it, keep learning as much as you can, study what others are doing, and try to learn from them. That's really the only advice I could give, though. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not like the guy that made Stardew Valley, right? I'm not I'm not a millionaire from making games. Very far from that. But, you know, that's kind of been my experience of like how I've been approaching learning this stuff. Okay, so we've got the enemies spawning, and we've got the round timer ending. So that means that our game is finished. No. Bop. And bonk these guys with the hammer. I so badly want to start adding polish to this game and just like make particle effects and stuff. What I should do actually though is that a lot of these guys still have 1 HP. So what I should do is I should change that. So for enemy medium, let's give this guy 5 health. And for the enemy large, let's do like 8 health or something. I guess it doesn't really matter. Does it matter? I'll change these damage numbers real quick. Yeah. I might have to, I'll have to check. So yeah, I'm gonna have to design the special abilities on the player in such a way that you're gonna want, like, so for the medium, it takes a while for the medium character to kill the medium enemies, but if he's got a really buffed up dynamite, which is the ability that I want to do for him, then that's going to work really well. You know what I could do as well is I could make it so that even though your attacks aren't damaging the enemy type, so like if I'm shooting spalls with the medium, I could make it so that it knocks them back. That would probably be good, so I can create distance. So like I could switch to the big guy, and if I needed distance, I could just smack things away from me and then focus on handling the immediate threats. That sounds like a good idea. Ah, get away! And once I change the enemy speeds and the player speed, let's actually do that. Let's go ahead and do that right now. So the enemy large, let's turn his speed down to, I don't have a const speed float. Well, I don't need to do that, do I? I can just do. Maybe we'll do 40 instead. And then for the enemy medium, oh, the small enemies are very... The small enemies are very fast, or very slow apparently. I'm going to turn them up. Const speed. Let's see what it looks like with a little bit more disparate speed. Okay, so the slow guys, or the fast guys, are really fast. I think I should probably change the player speed as well based on... Yeah, I'm gonna have to play with those numbers a little bit, but I don't want to get too far ahead of myself before I've... Well, might as well get far ahead of myself, why not? Let's change the player speed based on what size you are and see how that looks. So let's create a player speed map. So var speed map dictionary equals, and then for these entity sizes, we'll give different speeds. So we'll do 125 for the small guy, 100 for the medium guy, and maybe 85 for the large guy. And then here, let's do speed map current size. So yeah, okay, I like that, because what's going to happen is you're going to be on the large guy and you're going to get swarmed by smalls. So you're going to need to switch to your small guy, put some distance, switch to the medium, maybe deal some damage like that, but then get in melee with the slow guy. But you can also use your leap slam to get away. Okay, I like the direction that that's going. It's gonna... I obviously need to... why can't I talk today, man? I'm obviously going to need to add the specific abilities for each different player size in order to get a really good feel of what's going on, but I like the direction that this is going. Yeah, Pygame, I used Pygame in college. That was, I did not like it. Pygame is weird. Now, when I was in college, like, Godot 3 wasn't even a thing, so I think Godot 3 came out my senior year in college in, like, alpha. So that's when I really started using Godot in 2019, I think. Or no, it wasn't 2019. No. It was 2017 was my senior year in college, so... Was that when Godot 3... I remember using Godot in my class. Was it 2017? I don't know. Feel like I'm ancient in the realm of online game development. How do I get stuff up and going so quickly? Good question. It's just because I've done this so many times before that it's not... Unless I'm doing something that I've never really done many times before, it's just like I'm just writing the stuff that in the way that I already know how to do it. So like all the stuff that you're seeing here and the way that I'm architecting my solutions, and it's just, I've just done this so many times that I kind of have a sense for like what works good and what doesn't work good and what's going to work for this specific scenario and so on and so forth. It's really just experience. It's nothing special. It's just trial and error repeated many, many times over many years. Math programmers. Math is one of my weak spots, unfortunately. Anytime the game development gets very math heavy, it's like, okay. Gotta figure out what I'm doing here. I'm going to turn off these collision shapes because these are looking ugly. So you can imagine, I hope you can imagine at least, with like lots of polish and lots of juiciness added. Oops, I'm shooting him with the wrong thing. Okay. I think the next logical thing to do would be to add the player special abilities in so I can see how those work within the context of the game. But I'm not going to do that, even though this is going to be the best next step, because I actually want to add some boundaries to this so that I have a sense of like how constrained the game area is, because right now I can go outside the boundaries. So if I were to run the game, I can just go like this. See ya, bye. So I want to, because I want to see what it's like if I'm like backed up into a corner, how bad that is. Oh, this is going to be so much fun when there's actually effects and everything, and smacking things knocks them away. Oh my goodness. I can see the game in my mind's eye right now. So somebody asked the question of motivation earlier. This is the point where like I have no problem with motivation. Like I'm just eager to get into like making this actually work. Whereas the stuff that we've been doing for the past couple of hours and the stuff that I was working on yesterday, that was more of the slog. That was more of like, ugh, I got to set up all this boilerplate code and like get some art done and all that stuff. So just to expand upon that comment that was made earlier. So let's go ahead and commit this. So change speeds of entities. All right, so let's go ahead and add some static bodies in here. Add child node, collision shape 2D. And then rectangle shape. How big do these need to be? That is too big. How big is this? 450, okay. There we go. Oh, that's odd. I'll just do 450. Well, I probably actually need to do a little bit more than that. Let's just do 500. That's fine. 500 and then... Do I need to make this like 19 instead? There we go. Yeah. So we'll work with that. And then, so this static body, the collision layer will be the terrain. And we need to change all of the character body 2Ds to search for that terrain layer. So mask terrain, enemy medium needs to have... Oh, it already exists. Oh, did I not? I didn't even change these. Enemy character body. Sorry, I gotta get my collision masks in order here. Enemy large. I didn't even change these. All right, that's actually gonna change quite a few things. Let's see. Okay, yeah, they're not bunching up as much anymore because now they're all colliding with each other. That's much better. Okay, that's much better. I'm still going to add probably some Boyd or flock behavior, or at least some random wander behavior to them, because them just going in a straight line toward you is kind of boring. But one thing at a time, one thing at a time. Let's duplicate this static body. I think I can just rotate this. Okay, now for the player, I'm going to change the collision shape for the player a little bit. I think. Oh, maybe not. The problem with the player is that because the player is different sizes, if I change the collision shape of the player with the sizes, that can actually create physics issues because you're going to be up against a wall, for instance, and then all of a sudden you're going to, you're going to have a much bigger hitbox, and that can create issues. So when you switch player sizes, you're probably going to bleed outside the platform or the wall a little bit, but I think that's probably fine. It's one of those things where it's more annoying to deal with than to leave it in, and it doesn't really affect the gameplay, so might as well just not address that if it's not necessary. So, and it's like I'm still half on the platform, so it's fine. I need that dynamite so I can destroy these guys. Okay, so we've got boundaries now in place, so I can't leave the platform, and that's nice. So add platform boundaries. Laptop relics. I think I want to retry learning game dev again now with ChatGPT. It's easier to grasp the concept. Yeah, that's true. Yep. What is Johorian? I don't know what that is. Could be my my American ignorance. Maybe some enemy can, oh, I can't see, get you stuck in big form for a while. Yeah, that could happen. Right now, I'm just making it so the player can just phase through the enemies, like just go right through them. But if it'll make the gameplay better, I can definitely look into changing that. Oh man, this is going to be so good. I cannot wait to add polish and effects and all that. But like I said, what we need to do first is we need to add the player special abilities so we can see how that all is going to work. So this is where the game development part gets very tricky. Let's start with, because I'm going to have a leap slam. I'm going to have dynamite throw and dash probably. And making all those work is going to be a little bit of work. So we've got handle attack input, and we've also got like handle, we're going to have like a handle special input. Let's create an input map for that first. So let's add a new action, special input. Oops. Special input. Let's make it space, and then we'll also make it right click, just in case people don't want to press space or whatever. Okay, let's do this. Now, this is also going to be tricky because presumably, like, I mean, during the leap slam, you shouldn't really be able to swing the hammer while you're leap slamming. So I'm going to have a way of disabling certain things, like, and you also shouldn't be able to change your player size while you're mid leap slam. That wouldn't make much sense. So I'm gonna need to have like a way of locking the player current state somehow. This is about to get very tricky here, so I'm gonna have to be careful, but we're gonna do it in a very straightforward way first and then fix it as problems come up. So we're going to do a special input callable map, basically the same as this, except we're going to do special input. So func handle special input small pass, func handle special input medium pass, func handle special input large pass. Let's start with the small dude. Let's start with the small dude. Might need a state machine here. So whoever asked about the state machine delegate, this might be the place where I duplicate or create that in GDScript. Just got to think for a second here. So one of the problems is that if I'm going to do a dash on the small player, I need to override this functionality here, basically all of this here, which means I'm probably going to need a state machine. I don't think there's any way around that. State machine is probably going to be the cleanest way of doing this. So yeah, probably going to be the cleanest way of doing this. So I'm going to open up the Godot utilities that I have, which is in C#, but I'm going to try to port it over. I'm just looking for it right now. Okay, so here it is. This is the delegate state machine in C#. And so basically what we've got is we've got a current state, then we've got a dictionary of states. State flows. What is that? Oh, normal, enter, leave. So it's basically just an object that holds the normal state, the enter state, and the leave state. So let's just go ahead and transcribe this as much as we can. So let's go to scripts. Create new script. We're going to call this I'm going to call it callable state machine. Callable state machine. Okay. Open that up. Class name. Callable state machine. All right. What do we got going on here? So we've got a current state. So we have a dictionary. So we essentially have a nested dictionary. So we do var state dictionary. Oh, can I have a... Oh, you know what? I don't know if I can have a callable as a key in a dictionary. So that might complicate things a little bit. But so for instance, we'll have like a state dictionary will be like... I think I can probably handle this. So the state name, and then all of the normal, enter, and leave states. So it'd be something like normal is the state name, and then it would have a nested dictionary, which is like enter, which would be enter callable, and then leave, which is the leave callable, and then the normal callable. So this is not real code. I'm just writing that out so I have it. So let's do func add states. I'm going to actually comment this out. Okay, so add states. What do we got in our C#? We've got normal state, enter state, and leave state. So I'm going to do normal state callable. Oh my gosh, can I spell, please? enter state callable. Can I set that to null by default? Leave state callable equals null. Can I do multi-line arguments in Godot? Or doesn't that work? Cannot assign a value of nullable as call. Okay. So that's going to complicate things a little bit. All right. So we've got our states here. So what's happening is it's taking that normal state, using it as the dictionary, and then assigning the other states to it. So actually what I can do here is I can do state dictionary, and then as the key, what we can do is normal state callable dot. Is there a way to get to the name? Get method dot. Get base name? What is this? Returns the name of the method represented by this callable. Oh, okay. So that's just a string name, actually. Okay. So I can do get method. So that's going to use a key as the string as the key here. Equals. And then for normal, or enter, we're going to do enter state callable. And then leave is leave state callable. Identifier enter is not... Oh, I need to make this a string, I suppose. So that's essentially what we do there for adding the states to the dictionary. Then when we're going to add change state later. So we need a current state. So let's do this. Var current state equals... Well, let's just do a string. Yeah, state machines are, a little bit boring. Oh, Johorian is a state in Malaysia. Oh, interesting. Very cool. Do you recommend learning Python first before going deep with GDScript? No, I don't think you can. I mean, I think what's probably more important is that it can be very difficult to learn game development and programming at the same time because it's kind of a mixture of two different things. If you're not familiar with programming and you're not familiar with how games are typically made, then you kind of have two mountains to climb simultaneously. So I would recommend, like, if that's too daunting of a task, that people just learn a programming language first. Just learn how to make like command line programs and how the logic all works and how the syntax works. And then once you've got a good grasp on programming generally, or a good enough grasp, then you can move into the game development space and learn how to apply scripting in the context of like a game engine. But I don't think it really matters what language you use. The logic and the style basically is all the same. Not the style, but you know what I mean. Like the way in which you approach problems is the same. So get current state update. So we need an update function. So if current state is not equal to null, state dictionary, current state as callable dot call, like so. Okay, now set state. So let's implement the set state now. So func set state. We're going to take a state callable as a callable here. And hopefully I'll be able to show you how this all works if I'm doing it correctly. So var state name is equal to state callable.get method, like so. And so what we're going to do in here is I'm just going to check this really quick. So we're going to try to get the value. So if state dictionary dot has state name, then what we're going to do is we're going to invoke the leave state. Oh, we want to call this in a deferred fashion as well. Oh, that's a private method. Okay. So let's make this an underscore so that it's private, and then let's make a public method called change state. That's where I was getting confused. Okay. So state callable. So basically everything that I was doing here. So the reason we want to do it in a deferred fashion is because we want to let all of the state logic finish for that frame. And then in between frames, we're going to change the state. And so that means that we're not going to interrupt the middle of a state. Because like, imagine you're going through a state. You're like in your normal state, and there's a bunch of logic, and you're halfway through the logic, but then the logic says, do a state change now. You may have a bunch of logic that still needs to finish that is getting cut off early and kind of leaves you in a bad state. So the way I like to design my state machines is that when a state change is called, it's only done after all of the current frames operations have finished. So we're not interrupting the flow of any current state. It's not noticeable to the user at all that you're deferring the state change until, you know, the idle frame, but it just makes the code a whole lot cleaner and less prone to error and brittleness. So that's what we're doing here. So it's change state to state name, and right. So we're going to do this if state dictionary dot has state name, then we're going to do set state dot call deferred, and we're going to call it with this state name. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so now for set state, if the current state is not equal to null, if the current state is not equal to null, what do we need to do? We need to call the leave state of the current state. So we need to say var current, oh wait, we already have this as a string. So state dictionary current state dot, we've got leave, so dot leave. So this is our leave callable as callable. If leave callable dot is null, so if not leave callable is null, let me just check this documentation to make sure this is okay. Yeah. So if not leave callable is null, we're going to do leave callable dot call. So it calls that leave state, and then we're going to call the enter state. So current state is equal to state name. Then we're going to do, we need this to be unindented. Current state equals state name. Then we're going to say var enter callable is equal to state dictionary current state dot enter as callable. If not enter callable dot is null, we're going to do enter callable dot call. Now I need another method, which is going to be func set initial state. My cat was making a noise. Sorry. So set initial state, and this is going to be what? it's just going to be the callable of the state. So callable. And then what we're going to do is do var state name equals state callable dot get method. If state dictionary dot has state name, state dictionary, state name. Oh, I need to add the normal in here, don't I? Normal. Yeah, I did this wrong a little bit. State dictionary, current state dot normal as callable dot call, and it's going to be the same thing in here. So let's see. Set initial state. We're going to call set state with that. Oh, okay. Yeah, we're going to call set state with that dictionary, or that state name rather. So we'll do set state name, which is then going to do all the enter call and everything. Well, I hope I did that correctly. Maybe I did something wrong, but we'll see. So now if I go to my enemy small, or not my enemy, my player. Go to my player small here. Let's go ahead and just set up some states. So I'm just going to do something really basic. So we're going to create a new callable state machine. In the ready method, we need to set all this up. So func ready state machine dot add states. Let's do, let's just as a test, let's do func state small normal. Print yo. So add states, state small normal. And let's do enter state small normal here and null for this one. Does that work? I guess I can do callable.new instead. Oh, wait. Let me add the enter state small normal first. Print entering small state normal fam. Cannot pass value of type null as callable, so I should be able to just do callable.new. Cannot find constant. How do I do an empty callable? Oh. Is it just callable? Oh, okay, there we go. So that's just how I do an empty callable here. So state machine add states small. So now I should do state machine dot set initial state to state small normal, like so. So you see how we're using the method names for our states. So we're just tying the state machine states directly to these methods. So what I should see now when I start this is that I'm going to enter the small state normal, and I'm going to print yo a bunch of times. So I'm going to start this up really quick. Oh, you know what? That's actually not going to work. Okay, there's a couple of errors here. Invalid access to property key of type string on base object of type dictionary. Well, let's just go ahead and print state name here. State small normal. What is the error exactly? Invalid access to property or key of type string on base object of type dictionary. What does that mean? Do I need to set this to null by default? Cannot assign a value of type null as string. Oh, I can't have a null string? Interesting. What happens if I just do if current state? Does that work? Oh, that appears to work. Okay, well. Entering small state normal fam. Do you see that? So it called the enter. It called the enter, but it's not printing yo over and over again because what I need to do now is in my player, I need to in my process call state machine dot update. So now it's printing yo over and over again, and it should have called entering state small or small state normal fam. So there we go. It's printing yo a bunch of times. Now watch this. If I do, I'll call state machine dot change state first to state medium normal, and I'll create that. State medium normal. Let's do enter. I'm just going to do a pass here. Pass. I shouldn't break these up here. Enter state medium normal. Well, I need a new method for that. Jeepers, I'm getting tired, I guess. Enter state medium normal, and let's print entering state medium normal. So now what should happen is I should see the entering small state normal. I'm going to call change state to state medium normal, but then I'm going to call state machine update. So I should see entering small state normal fam, then yo, then I should see entering state medium normal. So let's see if that works. Did not work. Why did this change state not work? Oh, I didn't add it as a state. Okay. So let's fix this actually. So I'm doing a check here. The reason that it didn't work is because my state dictionary doesn't have that state in it. So I'm going to do else warn. Can I do warn? Push warning. No state with name, state name. So if I run the game now, I have this warning now. No state with name, state medium normal. So that's the reason that it didn't work. And I'm going to also push this warning where the other places that I'm checking that dot has, which is here. Okay, so that's just for me, just in case I make that mistake again. And now what I can do is I can add this states here. So state machine dot add states, state medium normal. I hate that. Callable. It's unfortunate that I just need these dummy placeholder things, but that's all right. And so what do we got? Entering small state normal fam, yo. Why didn't it call? Oh, gosh. This needs to be enter state medium normal. I'm getting all confused here. Okay. Now if I run it, oh, okay. So that's being called many times, and the reason is because I'm always changing the state here. So if I moved this state machine change state into my normal here, then it would only print once. Yeah. So now I've just got those 3 prints there. So in lieu of publishing this state machine immediately, what I will do is I will just open up this callable state machine here. And I'll just put it on screen for a little bit. So if you want to pause the video or watch the VOD and copy it. So there's the first half, and then I'll scroll down. There's the second half. So for anyone that wants this, you can pause the video at those 2 spots and just copy that down. And then the way you use it is in player. You can take a look at how I'm using it here. and then those methods are down here. Cool. Let's see what you all are saying here. What do I think of the Harvard CS50X course on computer science? I've never seen it. I've seen it pop up in my YouTube recommendations, but I've never gone through it. So I'm sorry, I don't really have any thoughts on that. May I see the furry fluff ball? The furry fluff ball? This furry fluff ball? The guy that has no fur? There he is. I just woke him up, so he's not very happy. Have I tried working at a studio? I have not. No, I don't think I would enjoy working at a game development studio. The reason I like doing game development myself is because of, I just like having creative control of the projects, and I feel like I wouldn't have that at a studio unless it was like a really small studio, but I feel like it would be easier to get into a large like AAA studio because they have more employees, and getting into a smaller studio, like a handful of people, is going to be really hard because then you would expect to have some kind of greater creative control, and if you don't have experience, then that would be harder. So I think the only way I'd be able to start my career in game development working at a studio is to go AAA, where I have no control basically, and then try to work my way over to the years into a smaller studio. It seems to me like the easier path forward is to just try to make it on my own, and then I can have all the above. I can work for myself, I can have creative control and all that stuff. But of course the risk is that that will never happen, and then I'll just be basically wasting my effort, but that's all right. Yeah, it's fine. I just think it's funny. A lot of people don't expect that from this cat, but anyway, I think that's that'll be it for the stream today. So we got a nice, just over 2 hours of stream in, but I am going to go ahead and take a little bit of a break. I'll let my mind rest a little bit. I'm starting to make a bunch of silly mistakes, so that's typically when I find that I need like a half-hour break or so. But I will definitely be streaming tomorrow, probably tomorrow morning around the same time. So subscribe, hit that notification bell if you want to be notified when that happens. And again, if you want to support me, again, I don't have a job, so if you can support me financially, that would be great. There are Udemy courses linked in the description. There's also my game, Gunforged, you can wishlist. I have a couple of published games that you can purchase if you are so inclined. And if you can't financially support me or don't want to for whatever reason, subscribing and watching my videos helps a lot as well. So if you want to support me, those are all the things that you can do. And it was great having everyone here. I really enjoyed the stream. Thank you all for tuning in. And hopefully I'll see many of you back on the stream tomorrow. So good luck to anyone that's participating in the jam. And I can't wait to show you the progress I've made tomorrow. All right, have a good evening or afternoon or morning, wherever you are. And I will see you next time.